and like my hand was like bleeding. Like I had like busted my hand open on this tree.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like tearing up, like so frustrated. Like
Live.
what's up, man?
Not live. What's up, Billy? How you doing, man?
Good. Glad
Dude,
to be here.
I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got Billy Miller on the podcast, guys. Special guest. This guy's a freaking sales savage. So we're gonna hear his story, pick his brain, ask him some questions. He is one of the top producers in the door-to-door sales game. So he's hit some crazy numbers, made some insane amounts of money. I don't know how deep you want to go into that, but we'll chat. So Billy, I want to first start out. How did you get into sales? What's your background?
So I joined sales right out of high school. So when I was 18 years old, I was working at Texas Roadhouse as a busboy. So outside of like 2 weeks, I worked at Five Guys, and then I worked like a month or two as a busboy.
Okay, hold on. This is crazy. I was a busboy for Chili's.
Really?
At Chili's, yeah.
Yeah.
So, dude, that's busboy. If you're a busboy, you might want to get into
You learn how to
sales.
work hard. You learn how to move fast. So, to my credit, I was a great busboy too. I was good. They loved me there. But a buddy of mine told me he was going to these meetings with a sales company, which turned out to be Vivint at the time. But when he first told me about it, it was like he had come home from these meetings and people were winning Xboxes, they're getting free food, all this money. And he's like, yeah, they're recruiting people to go sell door to door. And at the time it was like I'd had people try to recruit me to do like the Verve energy drinks and the Isogenics and some of the MLM kind of pyramid scheme sort of deals. And so to me in my head, I was like, sounds like a scam.
Yeah,
Like there's no way like I'm going out knocking door to door. I'd done a little bit of door to door with like fundraisers for football, selling like football cards, cookie dough, candles, stuff like that. So I had a little experience and I knew how terrible the experience was. People did not like when you knocked on their door.
Yeah.
So he told me about it and I was like, dude, there's no way I'm doing that. You're crazy if you think you're going to do that. And then he's like, well, dude, I don't even know if I'm going to do it. But every single week we go to this meeting. It's every night at Wednesday. You get free pizza and they usually give out like an Xbox or a PlayStation or whatever. And then he showed me, he opened his wallet and he had like $80 and $2 bills. And he said they had this game where they filled up a bunch of balloons and they put $2 bills in all of them and then like let them go and people were popping them for money. Nice. And so I was like, okay, if I get a day off, I'll go check out one of these meetings, try to get some free money. And so one of my days off, I went to the meeting. It was out in Tempe, Arizona. And then there was a few guys like that are now OGs in the sales game, like Troy Gokeritz. Scott Brown was there at that meeting. And so they kind of told their stories. And I remember Scott Brown walked up and he had a stack of money. And he was like, hey, can someone read this quote off the board? And I raised my hand and read a quote and he hands me $20. He's like, good job. And I like had this $20 bill and I'm like, this is crazy. Like it takes me, at the time I was making about $10 an hour with tips. So he gave me $20 to read a 10-second quote. It takes me 2 hours of busting tables to make that $20. And I was like, dude, this guy's rich. Like this is insane. Cause growing up, like I grew up very middle class. My mom's from Japan. So she's an immigrant, raised by a single mom. So like we weren't like poor, but I have 3 older brothers. So it's like, she wasn't, splurging on us and we weren't, rich by any means.
Yeah, yeah.
And so seeing that like was like a game changer for me. Like this guy has enough money that he can hand me $20 without breaking a sweat.
For reading a quote.
For reading a quote, yeah. And then he proceeded to give out probably another $200, $300 for people answering questions, just participating in the meeting. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, I pretty much was sold on the idea of this. Like I left that meeting it made such an impact on me, like that there was this kind of opportunity. And then I went and looked up and started researching like door-to-door sales and seeing like people like Grant Cardone and people like Mark Cuban and Warren Buffett who like have these insane careers and had a big start in door-to-door, right? Selling all kinds of products. So and at the time, like growing up, I was pretty shy. Like even now, I would say I'm still a pretty reserved person. I'm not the most outgoing, like want to talk to everyone. I'm kind of the guy that would like walk in a room and sort of wait for people to approach me and talk to me. And so at that time I was like, you know what, doing something like this will be incredibly hard. And, but it'll teach me how to sell. It'll teach me how to communicate. It'll open me up. And I could see at that point that this was like a very, very valuable skill set to have, being able to approach a stranger and persuade them to make a transaction. Right. Yeah. And so I started realizing this is a very marketable skill. And I knew that you could make a lot of money doing it. And at first that was like probably the big motivation was like, I want to be rich enough that I can hand out $20 bills to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, cause it was funny. We would, in high school, they always had like the career fair, career center thing. And, we'd go on the computers to like find what job we wanted. Oh, yeah. And I would just like go to the income bracket and be like highest to lowest, like what pays the most, you know? And it was always like surgeon or something, you know,
medical field, doctor, dentist.
Medical field, surgeon, lawyer. And so I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. But I didn't want to go to all that school, you know? And it's funny, they never show salesmen on there, which should be at the top.
Right? They are at the very top.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
It's not on there for whatever reason. So, but yeah, I did my own research in it, started looking into it. They onboarded me and got me access to like the sales training and stuff, and started watching like the online training, which they had a great platform of, you know, we've seen all the sales they have, like the trainings they have online. So started watching that stuff, and then kept proceeding to go to the meetings. I don't think they would give out so much stuff every time. That $20 like the last time I won anything, one of these recruiting
since
events.
today.
Then, people have won Xbox, won all this crap. But the last time I won something was that $20. But
dude, that was the universe.
That was best $20
getting you in, yeah, right. Let me backtrack a little bit. So, I like to kind of get to know your personal story a little bit. So, did you live in Arizona? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, Mesa, Arizona.
Okay. You said you have 3 older brothers. You're the youngest?
3 older brothers, yep.
Okay. And then single mom. Mm-hmm. What was that like growing up with like single mom?
It was cool. I mean, I didn't know any better. So my dad had passed away when my mom was pregnant with me. So it's not like, to me, it was like, that was just how I always knew, you know?
Okay.
Like I knew friends had dads, but for me, it was like, that's just normal.
Yeah,
you know? My mom kind of played both roles, and, my mom's just a hustler. Like she's a translator. So she translates like English stuff into Japanese for companies. And as early as I can remember, she was always working from home. She would babysit us and working on the computer, always working. So I think the work ethic part, got instilled from her. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, my 2 older brothers had a pretty big age gap. So they're like 13, 14 years older than me. And my next brother, my other brother, Jimmy, is about 18 months older than me. So we grew up together. And
so it was like the 2 and then the 2 older ones, and then you 2 younger ones are kind of the...
Yeah, it was like they're about the same age apart as me and my brother Jimmy. And then there's like a 13-year gap between us. So
you and your younger brother are pretty close?
Yeah.
What does he do?
He does like insurance adjusting for an insurance company. He's came out on a couple summers with me. So he's done sales with me, which got us a lot closer for sure. Like we were close growing up, and then, you know, just brothers, like when you start getting into high school and, you know, you start drifting apart, and then we got real close doing a couple summers together. So
yeah, that's cool. I've got I have my family's split. I've got step and half brothers. I got 2 blood brothers that are younger. 3 years younger than me, and then 3 years younger than him. So we're all 3 years apart. But yeah, both of them have come to sell with me.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything, it just helped us develop a close relationship.
Right.
Because you're together all the time.
That's like, just kind of how it goes.
As adults, right? Not as kids. It's like, hey, now we're out here, we're adults, and we're like working together, grinding together.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's cool. Love it, man. So mom had a big influence, you feel like, on your work ethic?
Oh, for sure, yeah. She always was working. It's like every time I can remember, she's on her computer working every single day pretty much to provide for us. And then I always felt like she kind of instilled just an expectation for high quality, you know, like as far as grades go, like athletics, like, you know, she always like, it was always like, okay, I want my mom to respect this, you know, it's like.
You want to make her proud.
Exactly. So I did really well in school, and then the plan always was to go to college. I did end up going to college for a little bit, which we can talk about that. But yeah, so learned a lot from her as far as work ethic. but what was funny was she was definitely not the biggest supporter of this job at first.
Because she was a traditional job, 9 to 5.
Yeah, she went to school, went to college. She has her job. She's a 1099 like us, so she's independent, but she basically works a 9 to 5. She gets jobs and clients and stuff. So,
because Japanese culture is very heavy school education.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And so I remember first telling her about this, and it was funny because I'd been going to the meetings for like 2 months. I'm telling my mom like, yeah, I'm going out to sell this summer or whatever. And like a week before I left, I was like, yeah, Mom, my flight's, I'm going to Iowa for summer. My flight's Wednesday at this time. And she's like, you're not really going, are you? And I'm like, yeah, I've been talking about this for like 2 months. And she's like, oh, I didn't know if you actually were really going to do that. And I was like, yeah.
She's like, I was waiting for you to back out.
Right. She's like, well, maybe you should think about it a little more. Like, you have a really good job here at Texas Roadhouse. Like, you're making $10 every hour. It's guaranteed. She's like, just a way. I mean, I think especially too coming over as an immigrant, like you don't want to risk, especially like she didn't come over with a lot of money. So in a sense, she made it, getting into the middle class. And you don't really, with that mindset, you don't really want to risk it, taking the risk for her was like, she couldn't really fathom like, well, what if you don't make any money this summer?
Yeah.
And I was like, I know, but what if I make, $1 million this summer, right? So
she's like, I've built this life for you. Don't throw it away.
But she was a little reluctant about it, but definitely supportive. She's always been like, if you think you can do it, do it. And so back to when I was getting recruited, so they started talking about a blitz, which a blitz in our industry, we go out for a week, right, and sell. Mm-hmm. And they had one scheduled during spring break, which was pretty much my last break before graduating. And so they had a blitz scheduled that week, and then I also had a spring break vacation, like a senior trip planned with like all my buddies. Mm-hmm. So we were all supposed to go to California to the beach, and they happened on the same week. And then talking to the sales manager there was like, hey, you really want to have some preseason sales. Like if you can get a few sales in before summer, your summer will go way better. And so I ended up deciding, you know what? I'm going to skip out on the senior trip and I'm going to go on a sales blitz, which I had already paid for the senior trip, like $300 of my own money that I earned from Texas Roadhouse, and decided to sacrifice that. Couldn't get it refunded because we already all pitched it on an Airbnb or whatever. And so decided to go.
Where was the trip?
The sales trip?
No, the senior trip. Where was it going to be?
It was Mission Beach in California. Dang, so like San Diego area.
You missed the beach trip.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and it was, from what I heard, it was sick. Like everyone loved the trip, but I decided to go to Lubbock, Texas. And so that was where our sales blitz was. Lubbock is kind of a small, it's where Texas Tech University is. I don't know if you've sold there. Mm-hmm. Great for selling, but not really great for anything else. But went out there on my first trip and did not sell anything. So there was probably like 15 reps on that blitz. Maybe like 6 or 7 rookies. Every single person on that blitz sold an account except for me.
Really?
There was a few rookies who had 3 or 4. Like,
wow.
Guys were killing it.
Did you shadow a couple days, or did you just go right into it?
Yeah, so I shadowed for 1 full day, and I saw one of the managers or like veteran reps sell one.
Okay.
And then went out on my own, and I actually felt pretty confident going into it because I'd done all the training. Like I think a lot of reps come into this and usually get assigned some kind of required training, right. And most people don't ever finish it. Like I had no problem studying. I was good in school, so I studied all the training. I'd written my pitch out, like I'd role played, like a practice, like,
everything you were supposed to do.
Right, I was doing everything. I was like, cool. Obviously, didn't necessarily like when it comes to working all the hours. Probably working, maybe 50 to 60% of the hours. Definitely taking my curb breaks and my phone call breaks and stuff. But
I mean, that first week's hard. You're like, this is tough. I need to.
Right, but in my head, I'm like, I'm working hard. I'm in my hood. I'm not sitting at a park or whatever. Like, right. But so worked that whole week. One of my good buddies, Andrew, was on that trip. He's like one of my best friends growing up. He had sold one like Friday, and then that Saturday, I was like, dude, I'm getting one. I know I'm gonna get a sale, and I had something kind of teed up, like a callback, and I asked my manager to come with me back to the callback, and I'm like, this is it, like, because my manager was Robbie Reeder. I don't know if you knew him, yeah. He was like a savage. So I was like, if I just bring him to this house, he'll close the deal for me, because that's kind of what he did for most of the other rookies, kind of closed up their first deals.
Shout out Robbie. Robbie's a stud.
Yeah, he's a man. So But we get to the door, and then basically lady opens the door, not interested, boom, slams it. And I was like, dang, like, and he's like, hey, it's all good, man. It was still early. I think it was like maybe like 1 or 2 p.m. on Saturday. Mm-hmm. He's like, you still got time. Like, we're not until 6 or 7. It was, in the preseason. So I just kept going out, kept hitting doors all day long. And then around like 6 or 7 is when I started just getting really frustrated. And I was still knocking, but like, when your energy's just off and you're just like,
I can't be. Oh.
Yeah, I'm like being like trying so hard, way too hard, being way too desperate. So just like door after door, just no. And I remember walking away from like one of those last doors, and they had like one of those little trees in their yard, and I like punched the tree like 3 times. Like I was so frustrated because like I given up my senior trip. I went all week, made nothing. I thought at least if I make one sale, back then we get around 300 up front. So like at least I get my money back for the trip I missed. And like my hand was like bleeding. Like I had like busted my hand open on this tree.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like tearing up, like so frustrated. Like,
crazy.
And then sit down on the curb, and I'm like, dude, I'm done with this. I don't know why I thought I was going to do this. Like sales is not for me. Like I should have known that. Like I'm a shy person. I don't even like to talk to people. And I think I'm going to make a career out of talking to people. Like, and I pretty much was defeated. And I was like, just waiting to get picked up. Like, dude, I can't wait to go home and be done with this forever. Never going to do this again. And then as I'm just sitting there, like contemplating it, like thinking about the trip, thinking about like this whole week, I'm like, if I quit now, like this week is like a complete waste, Like I gave up my senior trip. I gave up a week's worth of time for nothing. And I was like, at very least, like I owe it to myself to just do a summer, just go do one summer, do something hard. If I make good money, if I don't, at least I can say I finished it. I don't want to come home as a quitter, because I had been hyping up the opportunity. I told every friend of mine, like, dude, I'm going to go make $1 million. Like, this is crazy. Like, these guys make so much money.
You didn't want them to be right.
Right. And a lot of my friends were like, dude, you're stupid for doing that. Like, I would never go do that. It's a scam. Everyone kept saying it's a scam, dude. Like, there's no way people make money with a job like that, Like, and so, and then I just at that moment decided, what, I'm gonna just give it a shot one summer. And then I think a week or 2 later, we went to like the home opener trip, and went and met Casey Ball. I saw his house and saw Vivint in Utah, which at that it was a big like shift from like the little like rinky dinky office in Tempe to like how big it was in Utah, and seeing like, oh, okay, this is like a legit like operation, which gave me a little bit more confidence. And then I still went out like in Arizona. I didn't do any more blitzes, but I probably went out another like 10, 11 days, just like going out knocking with either me or a buddy, or going out with a manager. Like I was really trying. Still didn't sell. And then still ended up going out for summer, and then got out. I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, was my first summer.
So you put in a whole preseason blitz, no deals.
No deals.
Then you were just out by yourself trying to get a deal in Arizona.
Yeah.
Before the summer, no deals.
Right. Probably knocking like, after school, going out for 2 or 3 hours, or going out on a Saturday. Like
you're trying, like you were trying. Yeah. You're like, I got it. Like I'm all in on this thing.
I was trying hard. Yeah. And it's funny, like later after that summer, my manager, Robbie, had told me that he actually had told one of the other managers, Tanner, who had recruited me, like, hey, I don't think we should bring him. Like, he's gonna have a rough time. Like they almost didn't want to bring me out because they thought it was like they were like, this guy's just probably not gonna make it. And
he's like, we don't want to waste our time with this kid.
We're gonna have to buy him a flight home in 2 weeks, and So, but luckily Tanner was like, dude, I think he's working hard. Like I think he has the potential, to do decent.
Where's Tanner? Tanner had faith in you. Where's he at now? What's Tanner doing?
It's Tanner Davies, who you might know him too.
Oh, okay.
So he's out in Arizona selling solar. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Tanner, I think Tanner believed in Billy.
He works. Yeah, he did.
Robbie, we know deep down you believed in him, but
Robbie believed in me after. Once I proved it, then he started like he was a big fan of me after that. But yeah, they work together now at KO Solar Company out of Arizona. Yeah. But yeah, so got to summer, and once I got there, I was like in my head, and I kept telling myself throughout the preseason, and everyone was telling me like, it's different in summer. The reason we're going all the way across the country is because the hood's better, right? It's not this crappy hood you have in Arizona. It's going to be way better in Iowa. The days are longer. It's cooler outside. Like they had all these reasons for why, like as soon as you get to summer, you'll start selling,
It's going to be glorious.
And so I was like, just banking on that. Like once I get there, everything will be better. And then I get to summer, and then blank the first week again, another bagel week. and my buddy Andrew, who had come out with me, he was the only person I knew that was also selling. So he came out that summer with me. We were roommates. And after that first week, we both bageled. And I'm like waking up. It's like Saturday night, and I'm like kind of laying in bed, like about to fall asleep. And then I hear like rustling, and I
No.
look up. And
Andrew, no.
He's like got his bag packed, and he's like, hey, like I was gonna wake you up. He's like, I'm about to head out to the flight. Like I have a flight right now. Like I gotta go. And I was like, no, you can't leave me, bro. And he's like, my mom already bought me a flight. And I was like, dude, you can't leave me. Like, and I convinced him to stay, and he ended up staying, missing out on the flight. His mom was pissed because she spent $200 or $300 to fly him home.
Yeah.
But he ended up staying, and thank God that he ended up staying, because like I think if he would have quit, I probably would have been quitting shortly after. Like I don't know if I would have made it without having like
Dude, he was like your support.
Yeah, it was like he was my boy. Like we were like brothers, So like growing up together and then being out there together. So he ended up sticking it out, and then that it went a full another week, basically Monday through Friday. And then finally that Friday at like 9:00, I knocked the door at like 9:00 at night and got my first deal. And it was like some old lady, Vicky Ehrenberger. I still remember her.
You'll never forget Vicky.
Never forget Vicky. She ended up canceling too, like 2 days later, because she had a contract and we didn't have any contract buyouts back then.
Yeah.
But signed up, got my first deal, and it was like kind of a game changer. I was like so excited. Like, and back then we had like the paper contracts, so you leave the house and you got like the paperwork, and I was pumped, got my first deal, and then the next day after I sold another one. So that Saturday I sold one more, and then thought I was on top of the world, and then next week, boom, blanked another like 5 days in a row. Like, and so it was just like highs and lows, and like I thought I had it, and meanwhile, like I was doing the trainings, I was role playing, like I was doing the right things. Again, still like I have the work ethic of a rookie. Like I'm not knocking 2 to 9 like nonstop, but I'm putting a good amount of work in. I felt like I'm putting enough work in that I should be selling more.
Like, this is the hardest I've ever worked anyway. So.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm freaking tired every day. Like, and we were that first couple weeks, we were knocking a city like 2 hours away. So we were leaving at like 11 in the morning, getting home at like midnight. And so it was like brutal. And those car rides home 2 hours after bageling all day are the worst, And then you're in a car full of people that all just threw down. And you're like, dang.
They're like celebrating, rocking out of the music. And you're looking out the window like, what am I doing?
Yeah. And it was like, so we had, I think 22 reps in that office, and I was like bottom. I was the last one in the entire office to get a sale. But finally got it, and then went another full week and blanked pretty much the whole week, and then got another sale on Friday. So basically we're 3 weeks in the summer. I've sold 3. And I should say too, going into that summer, my expectations were actually really low. I wanted to set like a really low bar for myself. So basically what I did was I did the math of like what I would make at Texas Roadhouse that summer, which was like $4,000 is what I was going to pull in, because I was making like $250 a week.
Yeah.
So I was like, as long as I can make more than $4,000, like it'll be a win, And so I was like, did the math. Let's say I make $15 an hour. I did the math on how many hours I'm going to work that summer, and how many sales it would take to basically make $15 an hour all summer, which winded up being like 18 sales. It's like all I had to make. So I actually wasn't that far off pace of what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And then the 4th week of summer, that Monday, I don't know what happened, but I popped a 3 spot, or actually a 4 spot, but 3 same days, and then 1 that scheduled out that ended up canceling. But so I sold 3, and like out of nowhere. And so, and I think something shifted in my mind, like as far as like understanding that if I just like ask someone to do it, like before it was like I was going through my sales process, and I was pretty good. I knew the product, I knew everything I was saying, but I would just kind of leave it open at the end. Like, so what do you guys think? Yeah, you want to do it? Where that one, that day, I was just like, at the end of the sale, I'm just going to ask them like, it's cool. So do you want to pay this with a credit card or debit card? And just like sit there, and they'd be like, oh, I guess debit. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And so I ended up signing a few, and then doing like 8 that week. So I had a great week. And then from then on, I did anywhere between like 2 to like 4 or 5 a week, the rest of summer. And so that summer was pretty short. It was like 11 weeks. I finished with 32 accounts, which at that time paid around like $13,000. And so by today's standards, like the pay scales are better, everything's better, right? But we'd look at $13,000 like a pretty below average summer.
Right,
We'd be
right.
like, oh, that kind of sucked. That was a waste,
Yeah.
But at the time for me, it was like I was pumped. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I freaking killed it.
Better than Texas Roadhouse.
Right. I made like 4 times what I would have at Texas Roadhouse.
And you didn't quit.
Didn't quit. I was able to come home. I got like a $4,500 back end check, and so at 18 years old, it was a lot of money. It was more money than any of my friends back home made that summer. But the biggest thing I'd say, like after that summer, coming home with the confidence that but those last 2 to 3 weeks, that every single day, if I worked all day, I could find one sale. Mm-hmm. And that was like the biggest thing I'd say I took home from that summer, was like the belief that, hey, next summer, if I go out the full summer and I sell one a day, I can do 100 accounts and make, over 50 or 60 grand.
Right.
Just having that belief. Like I hadn't done it, but I knew what it would take, and knew like that now I was capable of doing that. And that's what I'd say was probably like the biggest thing coming home, was like, okay, I can do this,
So were you excited to go into your sophomore year? Because you're like, hey, now I know I can do this. Now I can turn it up.
Yeah, and I knew, because like there's obviously a lot of money to be made in recruiting. And I was like, dude, I got, bunch of friends back home that have no money, that and a lot of my friends weren't going to college. They weren't going that route. And I was like, recruiting should be easy when I show these people I got a $4,000 check, because none of us had seen money like that. I was like, I remember the night the back end check dropped, I was out at like a house party with my friends, and like I was like, dude, showing everyone I got $4,000, like dinner's on me. Like we went to I took like 6 or 7 of my friends to IHOP, and dope. Bought everyone IHOP, and
they're like, Billy made it. Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, dude, I made it. I'm balling. But yeah, then recruited a bunch of people, and then that's kind of how I got the start into sales and into door to door.
Yeah. So you went, rookie year, actually, that's super crazy. I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know your rookie year was that slow of a start.
Yeah, that's incredible. It was rough.
It's incredible that you stuck it out, dude.
Yeah.
That's wow. And then just now people that know your story, that's pretty incredible. So that's awesome, man. So you go out. How did sophomore year go? How many accounts did you end up? Where'd you go? How many accounts did you end up doing?
So at the end of that year, I finished with like 89 funded. Mm-hmm. So I went to Jackson, Mississippi. And so that summer I was in school. So I went to Arizona State University. So I was a freshman there, taking like business classes, like all my entry level courses or whatever. So I only had time to get on 2 blitzes, or like 2.5. But that's just crazy. So I went on 1 blitz that was a 5-day blitz. I sold 5. I went on a 6-day blitz, sold 6. I went on a 2-day blitz, like just a weekend, and sold 2. And so by then I was like, dude, I sell every day. That was like the belief that I had that was different. So I had like, I think 16 preseason accounts, and then went out for summer to Mississippi once school was let out. So I still had a short summer. It was started like sometime in mid-May, and then had to come back for school at like the end of August. So I think I had 15 weeks that summer.
Like 3 months.
Yeah. So, but yeah, finished with like 89. But I also brought like 10 of my buddies to come with me. And so we did like, as a group, like 300 accounts. So I was able to earn like assistant manager pay, which increased my personal pay a little bit. And then got like, 10 grand in overrides or whatever. So
that's cool.
Finished that year with like making around 67,000.
Any of those buddies still in the industry?
My buddy, Nick Grant.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
he was out there that summer with me in Mississippi.
Yeah, Nick's a stud.
There's a few others that are in the industry, not with us at Vivint, but a few of them are doing solar from that group.
Cool.
But yeah, most of them fell off. Most of them finished the summer though. Actually, I think out of 10 we brought, I think like 7 or 8 finished.
That's pretty good.
Which is good. Like in this job, we know there's a high turnaround. So
it's not for everybody.
Right.
Not everybody can handle all the rejection you went through.
Yeah, for real.
That's cool, man. So sophomore year, big increase in pay. Got some override money. Sales tripled pretty much. Yeah. After that, how does your experience go after sophomore year into your vet?
So I finished that summer, made 67 grand, and my back end check was like 30 grand. So it was like, now I was like really balling. Like,
and now mom's like, okay.
Yeah. My mom was actually kind of worried though, because she saw like, oh crap, like this
this is working out, dang it.
Yeah, like not that, oh, it's working out, but like, oh crap, like this is a lot of money.
Oh, okay.
I might get distracted from school education, which ultimately is what happened. So I came back and I started my sophomore year of school, And I remember it was like one of the first or second weeks, like the orientation kind of weeks of my sophomore year. And we're in one of my business classes, and they're basically going over like all the different majors and what the average income is. And like my major was business entrepreneurship, and an average major with business entrepreneurship degree makes 55 grand. And I'm like looking at the board, like I just made more than that this summer, you know, in 3 months. Like I made a year's average income that I'm going to have with this degree in a 3-month summer. And so I just remember the next few weeks of summer just feeling like, dude, this is a waste. And and it was really hard for me to focus on school, and like just knowing that like the time I'm spending like on books and tuition and everything like that. And I actually had a scholarship, so I was like only paying like $2,000 a semester, which is pretty good because ASU is normally like $10,000 a semester. But still just feeling like this is kind of a waste, and not really feeling motivated by school at all. Like kind of at that point decided, well, I'm going to probably do a career in this anyway. So what's the point of getting the degree? Like in our industry, a degree doesn't really, like it doesn't help you elevate. Like you can scale as fast as you want. You don't need a higher education for a promotion in this job. You know, you can promote yourself. So there was a blitz coming up in October, and I wasn't able to go because I had school. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm dropping out. And I decided I'm going to go on this blitz instead. And then told my mom. And it was funny because I just got my back end check, and I went like to the mall and spent like $2,000 or $3,000 on like all new shoes,
got
new
dripped
clothes.
out.
Yeah, got like a little bracelet, a little gold bracelet like that, and I was like feeling myself. And so I had like all my shoe boxes like lined up in my room, and still living at my mom's house. Just got back from summer, and then basically broke the news to my mom like, hey, I'm gonna drop out of school and I'm gonna go like full on, because in my head I was like, if I can do 60 grand in a summer, like I can make 6 figures in a year. And growing up through high school, like that was always like, that's always what they'd show is like 100 grand.
6 figures.
You know, I was like,
6
dude,
figures.
yeah, 100 grand. Like no one really in my family makes 100 grand. Like I was like, the 100 grand would be like the next, that'd be rich, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I can do 60 grand in 3 months, give me 12 months, I'll make at least 100, you know? And so, broke the news to my mom, and she was not happy. She was like, I remember she like picked up the shoes and was like, this is why you're quitting school, like for this crap, you know, like, cause I was like, bought all the nice stuff. And then, but I mean, I had a real conversation. I was like, look, Mom, like, I know why you're upset. Like, obviously you care a lot about my success. You care a lot about, like how my life turns out. But I was like, I promise that I care more. Like, you know, I care more about my success. I care more about, you know, what my life is going to turn out than even you do, right? It might be hard to see now, but I was like, I really believe this is the right decision. And so that ended up, you know, working out with her, dropping out of school, and then started going on blitzes, and I was able to go on those blitzes. And then this year I was able to go on every blitz, you know? So there's like 5 or 6, and kept recruiting. Me and my buddy Nick, like started hitting up everyone we knew, and we were like in the office every day. And I was like, I wasn't like dropping out of school to go the easy route. It was like, okay, if I'm in class 5 days a week, I'm going to be at the office 5 days a week. I'm going to be sitting in recruiting interviews. I'm going to be hitting up all my friends, and definitely still had our fun, but like Monday through Friday, pretty much every day, me and Nick were in there meeting with someone, doing a training with someone, taking guys out to knock. And so that year I did like 50 preseasons because we were out there, and I still wasn't, I'd say I still didn't really know how to sell that well. Like I just knew how to work hard. And so,
because the year before you did like 80, 90 counts, you said?
Right. So I was still only doing like maybe 4 or 5 a week on average. Like that's kind of like what I was averaging out, like when I would go sell, you know?
So you decided to take the job like super serious. It's like, if you want to make professional money, you got to put in the professional time.
Right.
You start treating it like a full-time job. You're in the office, recruiting, building.
Yeah.
Because you knew how much money there was in management. Like you're like, okay, these managers are making money.
Yeah.
It's kind of the next level up.
And yeah, once my manager saw that after that year that I was taking a manager kind of role in our office. I was, you know, obviously producing at a high level. I was one of the better reps on our team. I was doing, you know, correlation trainings. I was working with my guys. So like I was kind of stepping into that role. And then you come home and then they start sitting you down. Well, this is what the kind of money could look like, you know, if you run an office, or if you bring 20 guys instead of 10 guys, and like seeing, because the way that the pay scales break down is like you'll get more and more percentage of what that override is the more guys you have, right? Because when you come in with just 10 guys, my manager's taking a lot of responsibilities with those guys. So obviously he needs to get his pay. But once you take full responsibility, then you can make the full rip on all the overrides. So started seeing what that money looks like. And then we just started recruiting. And I wasn't like planning to manage a team yet. Like I was just like, just keep building. And by like February, March, we had like 30 guys, probably like 15, 16 with a sale, like rookies. I was at like 50 preseasons. Nick was at like 40 something. We were like, and we sold a lot in our home market, which I think like as a word of advice to grow, like I think in this job, a lot of times we only sell out of town. We always sell on a blitz, but if you can get good at selling in your home market, you can grow fast because you can take reps out to go knock one day a lot easier than you can convince someone to come out for a week, So being able to show guys deals that way, you can get buy-in earlier and get training in earlier. So, but yeah, went out, and then by about like March, like we had enough guys to run a team. And so technically I wasn't qualified because I didn't do 100 the year before. You technically have to do 100 to be qualified to be a manager. But I went and sat down with my manager, Robbie, and my regional Brock, and was like, I think I'm ready to run a team. Like, maybe I'm not, but I'd rather try it and learn how to do this.
Right.
And I was only 20, so I was still pretty young. And then we went out to New Orleans, Louisiana, and took our squad out and ran a team. And we did like 800 something accounts. And I sold 150 that year. And Nick sold like 160, 170. He like really killed it that year. That was his sophomore year. And then made 150 grand. And so like kind of proved it, accomplished everything I thought I would. I was like, I dropped out of
six
school.
figures, baby.
Right. And I can go back home, tell mom like, hey, I told you, like I made the right call. Made the six figures, and finally started seeing like that real success that like, and still like at that time it was more like that back end check that year was probably like 80 grand or 70 grand or something, So it was like, I'm 20 years old, college dropout, making a 6-figure income, where most of my friends are probably making like 20 grand a year.
Yeah, they're
lucky,
still
at 20 years old.
They're still at Texas Roadhouse busting tables.
Yeah. And I mean, our per rep average was pretty low. Like the actual looking at summer, it wasn't the most successful summer, but it was like a big, again, like a lot of these like things is just like building that belief where I was like, okay, and now I know I can do it. I can go run a team. I can train people. Like I can take guys out and do this without a babysitter with me watching over, I was able to do it all on my own. So it was a big mental shift that like, okay, I can accomplish more. Like it's, that's what's cool about this job and this industry is that like, you're always lifting that kind of lid and that barrier of like what you think is possible from yourself, It's
like you feel inadequate at first. You're like, man, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to try it.
Right.
And then you end up doing it and everything ends up being okay.
Exactly.
And then after you complete a summer and you're dealing with the housing and all the issues with the reps and trying to keep their mental game strong, as well as keeping yourself mentally strong through the whole thing. Because you end up being like a counselor to like 30 dudes. You're like, bro, it's cool. You don't need,
Yeah, you don't realize until you do it that like, you're like, dang, I got a lot of respect for my manager. Like
you're wearing so many hats, right?
And still, in our industry, a manager's not just like a supervisor. He's a salesman too, and he's got to be the top guy as well. Like, so doing all those things and then still managing, going out every day and putting up numbers, it's a lot to deal with. But again, it teaches you so many different things,
Yeah. So when you ended up staying in Louisiana, right? Like, or moving there?
Yeah, so
permanently.
Yeah, so basically that after that year, me and Nick got kind of fat and happy. Like we got complacent, and that next preseason didn't work that hard. Kind of felt like this momentum of summer is just going to carry forward to the next year, which after doing this a lot of years, you realize that's not the case. Like as soon as summer's over, you got to start kicking back into drive and getting ready for next summer. But we kind of hung around, like didn't do a whole lot, went on a few blitzes, and ended up losing like a ton of recruits. So we ended up going out the next summer with like 10 or 12 guys, and then had kind of, that was like, we still, it was funny. Like, I mean, we did like 600 accounts instead of 800. I sold around the same, and my income that year was about the same. So it was like another 150 grand or so.
Kind of had a flat year.
But the flat year, I mean, it sucked. It was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It was like another turning point where like, I don't think I could do it anymore. I might quit. And I started looking at other stuff, looking at solar and looking at different industries and trying to figure out, is this what I want to do? Am I going to be able to sustain this long term? Like, because we had a killer year. Like, you think, like, I had this like monster year in New Orleans, like everything was going great, and then now we're kind of having a downturn. And a lot of the guys this summer, I don't feel confident they'll even come back, you know? Like, I was like, Nick will come back most likely, right? Like, but other than that, are we going to have to rebuild and do it all over again, you know? And so started kind of losing confidence in it and feeling like, well, maybe I need to start figuring out, like, you know, what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, maybe this isn't this career I thought it was going to be. And had a lot of doubts that preseason, and started trying to find, you know, where the grass was greener, started looking at other companies and trying different things. And then I met with my my divisional, Cheyenne, and Brock, and they kind of had presented this opportunity to move to Baton Rouge and work with Sterling Clark, who was out there helping him build his program. And at the time I felt like, you know what, maybe this, at first when they told me, I was like, dude, there's no way. I'm not moving to Louisiana. Like, I'll go there for a summer, but I'm not living there. Like, no way. But I thought about it for a few weeks, and I was like, maybe that's the best thing for me. Like, I kind of feel like when I get home, I'm super complacent, you know, like I kill it in the summer, I'm dialed in the summer, I get home and I like do nothing, you know? And it's like, maybe that's the best thing for me, is like staying somewhere where I don't have a bunch of friends, I don't have distractions. I'm like, the only thing I'll have to do is work.
Yeah.
And I decided to go, and I was like, moved out there. And at the time, like, Sterling Clark was killing it. He was selling like 200 or 300, and he had lots of reps, but just he was having trouble getting them to stick because he wasn't taking them out for summer. He was running GM. So he'd recruit 50 guys every year, and then by like July, everyone's done because they're home, you know? Like, it'd be like trying to run summer.
Yeah, we learned the year-round stuff's tough. I mean, shout out to the guys that do this all year, but yeah, I moved to Texas from Utah 7 years ago to do the year-round stuff. Did it for 2 years, and yeah, the retention was tough.
It's hard to get guys to stick. It's a special kind of rep that can work like that year round. You have to be responsible. You have to be disciplined. And generally, when reps first join this job, they don't have a lot of those things. They learn those things through the summer program, really. Right. So, but we found this like perfect hybrid where it was like, you know, Sterling's crushing it recruiting. He's building all preseason. We have techs. We have great area because, you know, I love selling in the South. So it's like a preseason market I live in that I can sell in every day, that I can go drive out, and I know I'll get a deal every day in Louisiana. Like, it's some of my favorite stuff to knock. And so we did sort of a hybrid where we'd recruit, build all preseason, and then we would deploy and take all of our reps from Louisiana somewhere else for summer. And so that first year we get out there and there's like no one. It's like me, Nick, and Sterling, and then he had another rep, Patrick, who's like a stud. I think he's like top 3 in the company right now.
Yeah,
like,
he's a beast.
Yeah, he sells year round. And that's pretty much it. And then like a couple straggler like recruits that weren't really selling, you know. But same idea. We're here in Louisiana. We don't know anyone. I'm not gonna go hit someone up to hang out. Like, we'll just come to the office every day. And the office had great location. It was right on LSU campus. So reps would walk in there sometimes like, what is this place? Like, you know, like we'd recruit that way. We'd go to the career fairs, and then just kind of started building from there. And then through that preseason, we moved there like January. And then by like March, mid-April, we had like 20, 30 guys again. So we had like rebuilt and had a squad again. And I think this time we had a lot better understanding of how to manage, me and Nick. And we actually, for the first half, took all of our guys and went out with Robbie. And Robbie was always like an incredible manager. Like, he runs a tight ship. Like, that was one thing I think we struggled with managing, was that like these were our friends, you know, and we're all the same age. You know, we're 20, 21 years old. Like, it's hard to take a manager role, where it was a lot easier. Robbie's like, you know, 10 years older than us or whatever. So he could kind of be like the father figure of the office. So it helped kind of getting off the ground. And then we did half with him and then half on our own. This was in Alabama. So we did Phoenix City and then Mobile. Right. And so, and then we did around 1,800 accounts that year.
Okay. So I smashed it.
Yeah, killed it. And then that's when I first broke 200 personal accounts. Yeah. So that was big for me.
And that was in Alabama?
Alabama, yeah.
Dude, that's huge. And then what was the income that year?
That was around 250. So first like $250,000.
Dang, let's go. That's crazy. So first $250,000 year.
Yeah.
Did you go buy some more outfits and some more Nikes after that?
I actually
what'd you do with your money?
that summer, after summer, I bought a Lexus. So I bought like a luxury car. And I will say the first like 4 or 5 years of my career at Vivint, like zero investments. Didn't really invest in anything. I think I bought some Bitcoin and some stuff like that, but
Yeah.
very little investing, which for all the young reps listening, like start investing early.
Yes, please.
Like, as soon as possible. I would really wish, like looking back, if I could have bought a house instead of a Lexus, or bought, or at least done both. I mean, I bought a Lexus and still had a lot of leftover money.
Right,
I kind of sat on a lot of cash, but yeah.
It kind of slowly just goes away.
Right.
It's like, where's this money going?
Right.
All of a sudden, just spend it.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing, dude. Like, if you're young, my issue was, and maybe yours is the same, is like I just didn't know what to do with my money.
Right.
Like, I was young, so I wasn't around people that were really
Yeah.
making big moves like that. So
Yeah, it's like you just get investing advice from like your friends who don't have money. Like everyone
Yeah.
that comes to you is like, dude, if I had your money, this is what I would do. And like, but finally, I'd say like this last couple years started thinking a lot more about investing and about my future, and started putting some good investments in place. So, but yeah, so came back that year, had a killer year, and then back in Louisiana. So we live there year round. So I'd go back to Arizona every once in a while, but for the most part was there, and that helped me a ton to really just dial in and like focus on building and growing. And then following year we broke off. So Nick ran his own office. So his first year breaking off, and then that's when I came here to Jacksonville, and that was my big breakout year.
the Jacksonville year.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're gonna dig into that.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville. Okay. So what year was Jacksonville for you? 4, 5,
That was my sixth summer.
6 summer.
So sixth summer, my fourth summer of managing.
So I remember, like, everybody kind of remembers that year. You went absolutely like insane.
Yeah.
So how many accounts did you end up doing that year?
I did 350 installed like accounts. 350 funded accounts. But with EFP, the way they've kind of shifted the pay scales, which I believe that was the first year of EFP. And it was 425 EFT.
Jeez, that's insane.
So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Who was with your? You were running the team. You and Nick.
Nick was running his own team down in Mississippi, and then I was running an office here with Jacksonville, and then we kind of had combined with a couple other managers from my division or from my region, but yeah, my group did 3,000, including Nick's.
Dude, that's awesome.
Accounts, yeah,
Huge
about
year.
3,000.
Huge growth year. Income that year.
That was like 450, almost 500. Yeah. So.
Mama's still proud.
Yeah,
Mom's still proud.
She's pumped now. She loves Vivint.
She's
trying to get my brother. She's always trying to get my brother to work with me.
Dude, that's awesome. So this is the elephant in the room. Everyone's like, for some guys, 350 smart home accounts is like unfathomable for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And so, if you could maybe just share, just being full transparent, the 3 like most crucial things you did that year to accomplish that, because even people that work year round, it's hard for them to accomplish that number. So what do you feel like? Because a lot of guys come up, if you're a rookie, you're like, oh, I got to hear this guy's pitch. He's got to be saying something. What is he saying?
Yeah.
It's like, that's their mindset, right? So kind of open us up to that. And I kind of know a little, because I've heard you speak at leadership events.
Yeah.
I kind of know a little bit of stuff that you did, which is super cool. But yeah, share, what did you do to hit $450,000 income and that many accounts?
Yeah. So, it's funny, like still when I come and cause now I'm traveling to different offices and training, and almost every time they want to hear my pitch. And so I'll do it. I'll give them a role play, but I think
they're like, that's what I'm doing.
It's generally pretty unimpressive. Yeah. And that's what you'll notice too with the guys that are the best at this job. If you hear the pitch, the presentation, it's like, it's not probably that much different from what you're doing, or what anyone's doing, So, but yeah, so that year, I would say 3 things. Like number 1 was just the belief. So the belief had shifted, and you said for most reps that's like unfathomable, and for me it was unfathomable, right? Like starting out as a rookie, I remember watching, the Vivint podcast and seeing guys that were doing 30 in a week, 20 in a week, doing 300, 400 accounts, and it definitely felt impossible. It always felt like those are just different kinds of people. You know, they're not human like I am. They're some other kind of breed of person, right? And so I had a big shift. It's funny, I actually was watching like The Last Dance, like with Michael Jordan, and I remember that was like that had like a big shift in my mindset. That was in the preseason, maybe a month or two before summer, because at the time my goal was going to be 275 was my goal. Go from 200 to 275, be a killer summer. But I remember watching that, like 275 is such a lame goal, you know, like 275 is literally like 25 from 300. And I was if Michael Jordan was in door to door, like he's doing 300 minimum, you know? So I was like, I need to shift that mindset and kind of change it to 300. And I also read a book, Atomic Habits, around the same time, which is all about creating better habits. And one of the biggest things I took from that book is how kind of creating an identity first and then habits will follow. And so I learned, like, if I can shift my identity and stop thinking of like, hey, I want to sell 300 or I want to accomplish this goal or this is what I'm setting out to do. This is what I'm hoping happens. It was more like, this is who I am. And then the outcome follows, you know?
Right.
And so I started deciding, I made a decision that point, like I am going to be a 300 rep, or I am a 300 account rep now. And so
you gave yourself that identity before you were that.
Right. And so I the summer before I really started journaling every day, that was a big habit that helped me get to 200 accounts, was like, I would journal every morning. I would write my goals. I was really in tune with what I needed to accomplish. Writing it down every day, seeing it every day helped. And then this summer, the next following summer, or actually starting in the preseason, I started adding that into my journal that I'm a 300 account rep. So I would write that every day, and I would put, I'm the number one rep in my region, which at the time was Brock Gravitt's region. So I wasn't even shooting to be the top in our division. It was just region. I wanted to focus on that first because we had Wyatt Levine in our division at the time, who was like, you know, crushing it. No one was really touching him. So I wasn't really putting my target that high at the time. But yeah, so I started writing that every day. It was like, I'm a 300 account rep. I'm the top rep in my region. And I started kind of embodying that identity. And so it helped with a lot of the day-to-day decisions, because I think we undervalue these small decisions that we make on a daily basis. But when I would look at them through the lens of a 300 account rep, of being like, okay, it's 8:30, I've already sold 3. 200 account Billy's going home, right? I'm good. Had a great day. I sold more than anyone in the office, you know. But 300 account rep Billy, looking at it like, well, there's still 30 more minutes. There's still probably one more deal out there, and then continuing to push forward. Or you get a phone call for a referral at 4 p.m. and it's 15 minutes up the street, right? I haven't sold yet that day. 200 account rep Billy's probably going to drive over there and get that deal, where the 300 account rep Billy would wait, would tell them, hey, I'll come in the morning. I'll come later, because this isn't a priority for me right now. My priority is getting fresh sales. I'm in knocking hours. And so just those little shifts, not going to a gas station, not stopping to get food or anything like that, just like being militant about, 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I'm on doors, like I'm getting deals every single day. And so the belief came first, and then kind of those habits would follow through. And then, you start creating a routine and habits around that. And then that's what really started to change. And then the results were starting to reaffirm, the identity, where first week of summer, I did like 12 accounts, which my goal to hit 300 was going to be 13. So I was pretty close. And that helped a ton, because in prior summers, it was usually like my goal was 8 accounts a week or whatever, and I'd do like 4 week 1. And then it kind of throws off the entire goal of the summer. So It was really important to have a goal that I knew I could hit every single week, that was attainable, that was going to push me. And 13 for me at the time was going to be realistic, but tough. I mean, I'd only done 13 like 3 or 4 times before that, but I had to do it every week of summer to hit my goal. So it was going to be tough. But then the second week I did 19. And so that was probably the third shift, I would say, that really helped me reach like these kind of crazy numbers. Was I had sort of this glass ceiling on personal sales, and I think all of us do. We all have this belief of what is possible for us, right? Like Vivint does a good job at displaying these top reps to hopefully lift the ceiling on what's actually possible for anyone. You have a guy like Tristan Pierce who does 600 accounts. Like, it kind of opens the like idea of what's truly possible. But what matters is what you think you can do. It doesn't matter if I think Tristan can sell 600 if I can only think I can only sell 200. Right. So I really started realizing that year that, like, if if my best week, and at the time my best week was 14. So if my best week's 14 and I'm at 13 or 14, I need to do everything in my power to get 15 to break that lid. And so it was kind of like a game for me. And I remember that week I had 14 going into Saturday. And so I was like, this is usually where like I buckle, right? I hit 14 and then I have like imagine I have this killer week and I bagel on Saturday, you know? Yeah. So like, and I remember that Saturday, I went all the way, it was till 3 p.m. without a deal. And so I'm like, dude, I'm going to screw it up. Like I'm going to just be at 14 again, you know? Because again, we have these limitations for whatever reason, we set them on ourselves, and our mind has a good way of like keeping us in this little box. And I think it's mainly like a kind of a protection system, almost like keep you comfortable, make sure you're safe, you know? And so for whatever reason, I was at 14. I was like, dude, I can't find a customer today. Like I've been selling like, you know, 1 out of 8 doors, 1 out of 9 doors all week. And now I've been through 30 doors and can't find someone. And then I went to this new street, and then I ended up getting a sale, coming right out, getting a second sale, which turned out they had like a mother-in-law suite. So it ended up being a 2-for-1. Like we did the mother-in-law suite and the house. So it was 2. Very next house, another one. So it was 4. And then like got all 3 of them to post me on the neighborhood page, and then got a phone call like as I'm walking out, like, hey, can you come to my house and sign me up? And so ended up getting 5 deals, like boom, in the matter of like 2 hours.
Everyone's like, what? Refreshing the feed. What is Billy doing?
And I was like, oh crap, this is crazy. And that's what's crazy is that like my best week ever was 13. And then when I finally broke 13, I did 19. Right. And then for the next like few weeks, 19 was kind of like that like cap that I had on myself. And so I hit 19 like 2 or 3 times after that. And I was like, dude, I just need to break 20. And so when I finally got to 19 again, I like did everything in my power, you know, to make sure that I get that 20th deal. And then I ended up doing like 24 that week. Like once you break, it's crazy. Once you break these barriers and these lids, like it happened the same with double digits for me. It was a long time, my first 5 summers with never hitting 10 in a week. And then when I hit 10, finally I did 13 that week. You know, you start blowing these lids off. So that was a big focus, was like really just trying to continue like breaking down these self-limiting beliefs that I had, and starting to believe that I could accomplish these larger numbers. And I think that's probably like, you know, that we can go a lot into details and talk for hours about like the pitch and the technique and the referrals. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I feel like I do really well that helps me sell more on the technical side, but all that stuff can be learned. I mean, I think like, it's not like you need to hear it from me. You can read it from a book. There's so much material out there to learn how to do those things. But if you don't like actually believe that it's possible, like it never really happens. So I think that's like the biggest thing like that took me, was like, I really started truly believing it. Like I would go out every day and kind of already knew I was going to get 3 sales every single day. Like it wasn't any doubt in my mind about that.
Self-belief is huge.
Right. And then so it started just becoming automatic, where it was like, I wake up, I go out and I'm going to sell 3 every day. I'm coming home with 3 sales. And if I sell less than 3, like I'm pissed, and I need to work on something. I need to go out early the next day. And what happens when that belief becomes so strong, the work starts becoming easier. You'll start putting more hours in. You'll start doing more training, because you see like an actual like direct correlation with the inputs and the outputs. Where what sucks is like sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 years of inputs to start seeing a return. Once a return starts coming, the input becomes easy. You know, it's like you're putting time in, getting money out, putting time in, getting money out. Where the first few years it was like tons and tons of time and not seeing much of a return. And I think that's the problem, is a lot of reps, they give it a good amount of input, and then when they're not seeing the output, then they stop with the input, and then they start looking at just at the output, and start looking at, you know, every external factor for why maybe they're not able to do it, or why things aren't going well for them, you know? So that's the biggest thing, is just continuing focusing on the input, figuring out how to find that belief. And a lot of times, like, to get that belief, you have to just accomplish something. You kind of have to like jump from the nest and fly to learn that you know how to fly, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's probably what I'd say would be like the biggest factor.
That's awesome.
That changed. Yeah.
So what I got out of that is, you got to be militant with your time management.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, dude, I'm not stopping for lunch. I'm not stopping for breaks. Yeah. Like, I've got to hit my freaking goal.
Yeah.
And then believing that you can do it.
Yeah. And then tons of extra training and learning outside the doors. Never be too never feel like you're above learning, you know? Like
Yeah.
I think there's too many reps that hit a certain income or number where they're like, oh, I'm good. I know how to do this now. I can't learn anything new. And I still have the mentality of like, I'd love to learn. I love to take stuff from new people. Like there's always something that can give me an edge. Regardless if it's someone who performs less than me, you know, I'm not too conceited to believe that I can gain something from someone else, you know?
Yeah. Dude,
so
freaking awesome. We're going to have to do a part 2, bro. We're going to have to do a part 2. So
well, this was fun.
Hopefully you guys loved it. Yeah.
Podcast.
Billy freaking crushed it. Oh my God. Yeah. We could go for hours, but appreciate you coming in, dude.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Great way to end it. Technical difficulties.
All right, bro.
If you like the podcast, we would love the support. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.